going on, guys, and welcome to Boosted Motorsports. So behind me, we've got my Dodge Viper ACR that we competed last year in Roadkill Nights.
Hey, one more.
And they tasked us with taking the Hurricane HO, the 550 horsepower engine, and stuffing it into a chassis, showing up, racing on Woodward Avenue, and that's what we did with this car here. This year, we're competing again in Roadkill Nights, but they have given us a complete 2026 Dodge Charger Scat Pack with the same Hurricane HO engine. If you guys have been following along with the build so far, or if you're new here, we build all sorts of crazy stuff on the channel. This is one of them. We've got a Hellcat Swap 68, and that's the second one that we've worked on right over there. And we've done a bunch of other stuff, the Hellcoda, Hellcat Swapped Dodge Dakota, all kinds of stuff, Hellcat Swap Rams, you name it. Check out the other videos if you want to see some of those crazy things. But what we're focusing on in this video, I showed you guys in the last video, this car does still run and work. Seemed to be a bit of a misconception. We did have a slight hiccup, I will admit to that, but it wasn't that anything specifically wrong with the engine. We had an issue where we had to get the turbo rebuilt, but it wasn't any fault of HPT's, but it was just a unfortunate circumstance that happened. But the engine is still perfectly fine, and we have never opened this engine. It's still 100%, but I do want to kind of clear that up with you guys. So the engine runs, it's still in the car. What we're actually going to do is this turbo kit here, rather than remake a whole other turbo kit, I want to spend my time, and it's actually limited time because we were given about 45 days. At this point, it's almost 30 days that we have left to essentially make a race car out of a full production car. You can see we've done a bunch of stuff to get to this point, and the videos should hopefully have came out in the appropriate order, taking the transmission out, getting that transmission built, taking out the interior. And now what I'm going to do right now is we're going to take out this swap. So this, I'm going to continue the progression of this engine and this turbo kit since we already kind of have a baseline. We're going to take this and put it in there, and we'll be able to essentially lean on this engine as hard as we want, knowing that we have a perfectly fresh engine as a backup. So that's kind of my game plan right now. The other reason too is I do have a standalone Motec, which is what we used last year, and so we're gonna use that, and I can't have both cars operating at the same time with only one Motec, so that's kind of the other reason for this. And third, making that turbo kit, that took a ton of hours to fabricate that, especially with how tight we had to make those bull horns there. It was really tight. It was a million pie shapes, and I don't want to spend all that extra time doing that. So this is gonna come apart. We'll decide probably in the fall what we want to do with this car, whether it goes back to the inline six, and vote down below what you guys want to see. Back to inline six. I'm not gonna, this thing's pretty much just gonna sit here like a roller. I'm not getting rid of the car, at least at this point. But yeah, it's gonna sit here like a roller until we decide what we want to do. So the engine's gonna come out. First things first, what I think we should do is drain the coolant, and then we can start taking things out and go from there. Okay, well, dropping the coolant turned into dropping the whole transmission. I apologize for not documenting more, but I have just, you guys gotta remember, I am a one-man show currently, trying to build a car in 45 days, whatever it is at this point. So, drop the coolant, and got a little bit of a mess to clean up, but that's to be expected. Then we got the transmission out, disconnected, whatnot. Next, I just started taking off my wastegate dump tubes. So one's over there. There's my all of maybe 2 feet. I don't even think it's a full 2 feet, that drive shaft, but it's out. And then I'm gonna take this one out, and I'm gonna see how complete. I've never pulled the engine ever since it ever, got placed in here. I've taken the transmission out a couple times, but the engine I have not. So I'm gonna see what all is needed to be removed before taking this thing out. I'm
hoping not much, but we'll see, I guess, what the deal is. So I'm gonna take this out just so it's not banging off of things, but although I probably could take the whole thing. And then only other thing which I'm procrastinating on slightly is this coolant pipe, because I have a feeling it's gonna be a shower. So because it kind of goes down and then it goes back up, and I think I just got dripped on my head by something else. So fun times. So let me keep going here and disconnect a few more things and hopefully yank this engine here in a second. All right, it's an absolute disaster in here, but the engine is out, you guys. If you guys saw my post on social media, if you guys aren't following me, and by social media I mean like short form stuff, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those places I post up-to-date clips. It takes a little bit longer to edit something, but I can post short clips over on those places, so you guys would have seen this almost immediately. So if you're not following me on there, go follow me over there, same name, Boosted Motorsports. So engine is out, and I did tease to everybody over there that we are not simply just taking this out of here and putting it in there. No, this, not only am I gonna prove to you guys this engine is still good, but we are gonna push this even harder. So yeah, I got some stuff that nobody else has, you guys, and I'm not just trying to fluff you guys. I can't really say, that's what's killing me right now, is because I can't say what I'm actually gonna do, because everybody else is gonna watch these videos, and then then the playing field will be even. There's no point. So I do have some stuff that nobody else has that is gonna be going in and on this engine. That's about all I can say. So what I'm gonna do actually, and just to reinforce that I am doing that, I'm not just gonna put this in the corner and then, you know, pluck that one out and then put this one back in. I actually have my engine stand over there, and I just finished taking my Cummins engine off of it because it's got a rotisserie on there. We're gonna put this on there right now so that I can start doing my thing to this engine before it makes its way over there. And not only that, but I did tell you guys, everybody else is starting with a pretty fresh, you know, it's been running stock power levels for whatever period of time that their 2026 Dodge Charger had on it. I might have dirt on my head. I feel like I have dirt on my head. But this one, you guys know we've been beating the absolute heck out of it. Two-stepping, flames, making over 900 horsepower at the wheels, so basically 4 digits out of this thing, and I'm gonna keep pushing it to prove to you guys that we can still make more power with the same engine that we've been beating the hell out of. So hopefully that means something to you guys, and hopefully you guys are excited about that, because it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a party. We'll see what happens. So anyways, enough talking. Let me get this on here, but that's the situation. There we go. She's off. So where we're at right now, I've got my engine that I'm going to be putting in the car. It's built, it's ready to go. This is the bone stock engine. You might ask why. I wanted to continue development on this. This was the same engine that was in my Viper from last year's contest, and I wanted to continue the development on this engine while this maintained being a running car. At the same time too, I'm gonna continue to push that engine just to prove to you guys how strong these engines are. And with that being said, this engine here, it's been running around 550 horsepower, so this would maybe be considered like a freshy engine. So that's the situation. I wanted to show you guys how the front end comes off. Obviously, I guess I probably have most of it off already, but I kind of wanted to show you the underpinnings of these cars because there really isn't a whole lot of documentation on it. As far as the headlights, they are out there. They're held in by 4 bolts. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Without the front fascia or bumper cover on, these headlights look very odd to me. I don't know, it's like very sloped and flat looking. Mine also have like a tint. Somebody has put like a tint on the actual lens that you can probably see there. But they mount to a big plastic piece. It's over there. That plastic piece is kind of similar to last year's like deal. Last year they had a whole radiator support deal. This new platform, that plastic just almost holds the top of the bumper and then the headlights there. So that's gone and out of the way. The rebar crash beams is totally different for sure. So before, the rebar would bolt just to the frame rails. On this one, as you can see, the 4 bolts and then I guess a 5th technically right here, this little 10 mil, it goes all the way to the flat part of the frame rail, and this is all solid steel. So as far as I know, a lot of people are talking about weight, that is a huge weight savings. But I'm about to take it off. I'm about to kind of take the car apart and get this engine out. So I'm going to show you guys my process of having to do that. As it is going to be a race car, we're going to be removing the stock coolers, the AC. I'm just going to try to retain the factory radiator, and then we'll start doing all our plumbing, front mount intercooler, all that stuff. So let me keep chipping away at this, and I'll show you guys kind of what I take apart and how it hopefully comes apart. All right, so there's like a sub harness. This harness runs over to the fan. There's 2 sensors on the hood latch and then to the horn, and that plugs into there. So that is its own little harness deal. That's off. All right, the washer bottle, it's held on by 3 bolts. 1, 2, 3. So one there, and then one there. And then it also has a push pin that you'll notice right there. It's a little bit tricky to get to. It's on the inside of the fender. So if you had the fender off, it'd be a little bit easier, but you can access it through the backside there. It's just a little tight, but then you can snake this one piece. Then you can snake this one piece washer bottle out. So this front rebar, it's held in by 4 15 mil bolts, and then these 10s are just kind of to hold it in place. So as we start to loosen these, this thing should essentially be ready to come off of here. There's one. And I'm gonna set the camera down here because I have to catch this thing now. This is pretty substantial as far as weight goes. I will tell you guys that. All right, so I ended up getting that off, and I'm just getting this stuff kind of apart. So there is a drain on the radiator. This aluminum bracket is kind of in the way, but you can manipulate a hose to try to get it into the bucket. But then stuff like that will happen when you try to disconnect your coolant system for the turbocharger. So I just popped that off there, even though I drained it before, and it just went everywhere. There's no actual drain that I'm aware of for the other one. This plastic piece, the coolant for the turbocharger goes through those holes. So you have to remove these off here to get this piece of plastic out of here if you're trying to separate them. You can take it all off as one unit, but I'm trying to separate it here. So that piece comes off like that. If you hear a bunch of banging, it is 4th of July and I'm working. So fireworks are popping and I'm popping parts off this thing. All right, so I just took the transmission cooler off. Again, kind of make it so you can take the whole cooling assembly out for service, but I'm doing it so that I am just left with the radiator, even though I'm probably gonna take this out to make it easier to take the engine out, but I'm trying to break it all down to get to the radiator. Here's the 2 lines that go to the transmission. They're pretty standard stuff. The little C-clip, these little, a lot of people call them Jesus clips because they always lose them. They go flying. As far as the way these things come off, on this side there's like a speed clip here, and then this drops into here. And then on this side it has these little, almost like a wood screw, like a very coarse thread screw, and that holds that on. Here's your AC line. Again, they make a disconnect there and there so that you can take this whole thing as a unit. So for regular, I guess, service applications, that would probably be easier, but we're gonna go ahead and lift this out of that channel right there, and our condenser is out. So now we're left with just the radiator. So now we got one more. This is the radiator essentially for the turbocharger. So this one only has a little speed clip deal here, and then this should pop forward. Dang. People have some serious fireworks. Oh, and the screws on this side for change, so that one has to come out. But I've already got the 2 hoses disconnected. All right, so before I take this whole front clip, whatever we're calling this piece, off, it's kind of cool. There is some options. They do make it all serviceable, so even the AC has a disconnect there. All of your radiator lines, quick disconnects on them. Everything has a quick disconnect on it. You can just take off this upper radiator support right here, and then you could, just have the top section off, or they make it so that the whole thing will come off as essentially a module. There's 2 bolts right here that go through. That almost looks familiar from the last generation. But then down here on the front of the K member, you can see there's these 2 bolts that go in, and it kind of hits this steel faceplate and then this aluminum radiator support essentially. So now it's ready to come off. Let me set the camera down and get this thing out of here. Of course, wants to leak afterwards. All right, so I decided to just break this down to kind of figure out where all the weight was coming from. This doesn't weigh hardly anything, you guys. So this is super lightweight. Like if you went to aluminum radiator with a fan, definitely gonna be heavier than that whole assembly, because that's just a tiny bit of aluminum and the rest of it's plastic. Where the weight seems to be coming from is these massive steel plates, because obviously the bottom's aluminum. These brackets have a little bit to do with it, but they don't weigh a ton. But what I think I'm gonna end up doing is, I was hoping I can take this off of here, but there's these massive steel plates, which not too sure what the whole intended purposes are. I think they're kind of, you know, future use or provisioning, but essentially that bolts to that, and then everything goes on top of it. But it doesn't really serve any function, but there's a ton of steel right here that is adding to this structure. I think if we can either separate this piece, or if I can cut this, whatever, just maintain just this bar for the hood, because this plastic piece will then bolt to the face of that. That'll hold the top of the radiator in, and then I have really no need for all this extra steel here in the front. So that's what I think my game plan is going to be, is use these brackets to hold the lower radiator support, and then just use this 1 bar across the top that'll hold the upper. And then, yeah, this huge piece of steel in the front is kind of a little bit useless to me. I can always put it back on later. Like I said, it just gets pinched back here. So once you unbolt this right there, the bracket that holds the lower, it's pinched between, and then you can do that. All right, so there's a riv cert on each side. If you just drill just the head of it off, you can still leave the threaded insert in there. Then those 2 massive plates pop off. Then I've got the lower. Now I've got the upper, shed a bunch of weight, gained a bunch of room for activities, we're good to go. All right, moving along here. So I think the thing that surprises me the most so far in this episode is how much coolant is coming out of the heater core. That's just the heater core connection. And obviously there's still gonna be some in the heater core, but it's almost filling like halfway up that 7-quart pan. So, little surprise on that. There's some disconnects over here if you want to see how that kind of functions. So just use a little pick. There's a disconnect there, but then there's also a disconnect here and here on the actual core. So these, I'm disconnecting this one because I'm going to start getting this whole thing ready to come out of here. So this is this line right there. So I'll probably pop that one out there again. A big clip with a disconnect. We're gonna have to pop out the CVs in order to pluck this thing from the top. So that'll be fun, but cross that bridge when we get there. There's a bundle of cooling lines. We have the transmission lines and the ones that go to the heater hose that ran through here. So there was a 13mm nut, and that held on a bunch. There was one Christmas tree clip down there that's fun to get to, but got that out. And then just finished taking out the coolant reservoir. It's got mostly quick disconnects. We got the one here, the one there, the one there, one on top, and then this one you do have to use a conventional like hose clamp deal. And then this is out of there. So we are making pretty good progress. I'm almost gonna get to the point, if you guys watched my transmission removal video, I'm almost to the point where I probably gotta figure out what parts of the suspension we gotta drop to get the half shafts out, the front axles, CVs, however you want to call them. And then we can actually probably pick up this engine and get it out of there. All right, it's almost midnight on July 4th. You can hear the fireworks going off, and fireworks are going off in here because I'm about to pull the engine by myself. And it's got the front differential, everything all on it. It's actually not that bad to pull from the top. Service manual says to pull from the bottom, but I don't know. If you can pull it from the top, I like pulling it from the top. Just me. Either way, you're going to have to pluck it off of something. Even if you drop the whole thing at the bottom of the cradle, you still got to lift it off the cradle. So I like doing it this way. But what can I show you? So ECU disconnects from here. On a 2-wheel drive model, it wouldn't have this extra little module, but since it's got all-wheel drive, selectable rear-wheel drive, it's got this extra drive module there. I did find interesting is the transmission, engine mounts, and a couple sensors, and the front axle disconnect don't run to the computer. It runs to the body, which is here. So we'll see how that plays out afterwards. Fuel line disconnect right there. If you can see down there, there's just an 18 mil bolt that goes straight through there. I just took it out. That's a single straight down motor mount, engine mount. There's actually a couple tools which go to two of the bolts on the back and then give you an eyelet from the, I guess, Mopar, I guess service, whatever, if you were to actually buy the, I don't know, 1/4 inch brackets that they make. And then the other two, like you have to take all this off and then they go into here and take this off, and then it gives you an eyelet here. There's not really a good way to lift them. I've been lifting them off of these M8 bolts. They're pretty substantial. These are only M8 anyways, so. But I've lifted it this way. I just always put a rag on the corners just so it doesn't, you know, do anything to the valve cover. But I've been lifting these things all over the place that way, just with a simple chain. So she's about up. Yeah, she's about ready to come out. So let me show you guys the process of taking it. Okay, so I pulled the pan off and I was comparing windage trays. Pickup tubes are different as well. So here's the pan. That oil was extremely dirty. It is just pitch black, but got that pan. That's the one off of here. And then I can't really reference my pan because I had to modify it for the Viper, but you can see there I shortened it quite a bit. But the windage tray and the 2-wheel drive rear sump pan, obviously this pan is different than that one, with it being having that hole for the front drive shaft to go through. But the windage tray, even though I almost was like, yeah, it's the same part, and then I started looking at it a little closer and it is different. It's different part number stamped on the front here. But then if you look right here, see how this one, the internal pickup tube runs on the driver's side and then over. This one, the internal pickup tube runs on the passenger side and then over. So not a big deal though. We'll just swap those out and then swap out the pickup tubes, and then I can go ahead put everything on this engine on stand. Okay, chaotic mess. We've got the Viper pan on here. This one on here, just finished putting the RTV in the 4 corners. Everything's clean. Got the windage tray transferred over, so let's get this pan on here bolted up, and then this engine's pretty much ready to go.
All right, John here again from the future. If you're not following me on Boosted Motorsports on Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok, that's where the short form content lives, and that's where I'm giving you guys the most up-to-date videos. It takes me a while to edit these and to get them out for you guys, but if you guys aren't following along over there, you'll have seen that we've been making some pretty good progress, and you can kind of see things are looking a little bit different. So make sure you follow me over there and I'll get you guys up to speed here. So now the Viper's engine is now in here and it's looking pretty bare. So I'm gonna get you guys up to speed on the next video, but if you wanna stay up to date with short clips, go ahead over there and make sure you're subscribed and following there. So anyways, we're making good progress. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Catch you guys on the next one.